In 2014, a behavioral designer named Nir Eyal published a slim book. It wasn't a thriller. It wasn't a manifesto. It was a business book. Quiet, academic, precise. He called it Hooked. And in it, he outlined what he called the Hook model, a 4-step framework for building products that people couldn't put down. Silicon Valley loved it, not because it was radical, because it worked. And today, every major tech app you use, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Snapchat, YouTube, runs on some version of this exact framework. This is not a theory. This is not speculation. This is the anatomy of the machine. Before we get into the apps, you need to understand the model itself. The Hook model has 4 phases. They run in a loop, and the loop is designed to repeat indefinitely. Phase 1, trigger. Phase 2, action. Phase 3, variable reward. Phase 4, investment. That's it. 4 steps. But the simplicity is deceptive, because when these 4 steps are engineered correctly, when they're embedded into the design of an app, baked into the interface, wired into notifications and algorithms, they stop being a framework. They become a cycle you can't see yourself inside of. Let's break down each phase, and let's use the apps you already have on your phone to show you exactly how it works. Every hook begins with a trigger. A trigger is what initiates the behavior. It's the starting gun. And there are 2 types, external and internal. External triggers are the obvious ones. A push notification, a red badge on an app icon, a text from a friend that says, "Did you see this?" These are environmental cues, signals from outside your brain that tell you to open the app. Internal triggers are more powerful and far more invisible. An internal trigger is an emotion, a feeling, a state of mind that you've unconsciously learned to associate with a particular product. Bored, lonely, anxious, open Instagram. Waiting in line, sitting in silence, lying in bed at 11 p.m., open Instagram. You didn't get a notification. Nobody texted you. The app didn't do anything. You reached for it because your brain has been trained through thousands of repetitions to associate that feeling of discomfort with a specific solution. Scroll. This is the endgame of phase 1. External triggers get you in the door early. But the real objective is to transfer that behavior to internal triggers. So the app no longer needs to remind you it exists. Instagram understands this better than almost anyone. The platform's design is meticulously built around emotional states. The Explore page surfaces content calibrated to your specific psychology. The Stories format creates a sense of social obligation. If someone watched yours, you feel the pull to watch theirs. The DM bubble, the comment notification, the tagged photo. Each one is a tiny external trigger, engineered to fire at a moment when you're already emotionally primed to respond. And over time, after hundreds of sessions, thousands of micro-interactions, those external nudges become unnecessary. The trigger moves inside. You feel something. And before you've made a conscious decision, the app is already open in your hand. Once a trigger fires, the model requires an action. But here's the key insight from Eyal's framework. The action has to be easy, almost frictionless. Because the more effort a behavior requires, the less likely a person is to do it, especially when motivation is low. This principle comes directly from behavioral economist B.J. Fogg's work on habit formation, what he formalized as the Fogg behavior model. Expressed as the formula, behavior equals motivation times ability times trigger. He argued that the fastest way to increase behavior isn't to increase motivation, it's to reduce friction, to maximize the ability variable until the cost of acting approaches 0. This work came out of Stanford's Behavior Design Lab, in a field Fogg originally called captology, the study of computers as persuasive technology. TikTok didn't invent short video. YouTube had been doing video for a decade, but TikTok understood something its competitors didn't. The action had to cost the user almost nothing. No search required, no decision required, no loading screen, no algorithm you have to train manually. You open the app and content is already playing. The swipe to the next video is one of the lowest effort interactions in the history of interface design. A single flick of the thumb. It requires less physical effort than turning a page in a book, less cognitive effort than choosing what to watch next. TikTok's For You page also eliminates the paradox of choice. You never have to decide. The algorithm decides. Your only job is to keep your thumb moving, or stop moving it when something grabs you. This is action, optimized to its minimum viable form. And when the cost of an action approaches 0, the frequency of that action approaches infinite. Now we arrive at the heart of the machine. If phase 1 creates the pull and phase 2 lowers the barrier, phase 3 is what makes the behavior addictive in the neurological sense of the word. Variable rewards, or as psychologists more precisely call it, intermittent reinforcement. In the 1950s, a behavioral psychologist named B.F. Skinner ran an experiment. He put rats in a box with a lever. When the rats pressed the lever, they received a food pellet. He tried 2 conditions. In the first, a pellet came every single time the rat pressed the lever, a fixed reward. In the second, pellets arrived sometimes, randomly, unpredictably, a variable reward, what Skinner called a variable ratio reinforcement schedule. The rats in the second condition pressed the lever compulsively, obsessively, far more than the rats who got a guaranteed pellet every time. Uncertainty, it turned out, was more motivating than certainty. We now know the neuroscience behind why. Researcher Wolfram Schultz identified what's called a reward prediction error, the gap between what your brain expects and what it actually receives. When the outcome is uncertain, dopamine doesn't spike when you get the reward. It spikes in anticipation, in the moment of not knowing. That anticipatory dopamine surge is what makes intermittent reinforcement so difficult to resist. It's not the pellet that hooks you, it's the possibility of the pellet. And Nir Eyal identified 3 types of variable rewards that technology companies exploit. Rewards of the tribe, social validation, likes, comments, shares, retweets, the unpredictable affirmation of other human beings. Rewards of the hunt, the thrill of finding something valuable. Scrolling through information looking for a post that resonates, a headline that shocks, an opinion that satisfies something in you. Rewards of the self, personal accomplishment. Streaks, badges, progress bars, completing something. Twitter, now X, is perhaps the most sophisticated deployment of variable reward in the attention economy. Every time you open the app, you don't know what you're going to find. Maybe there's a post with 50,000 likes that makes you feel like you're in on something important. Maybe there's an argument that makes your blood pressure spike. Maybe there's breaking news. Maybe there's nothing at all. The unpredictability is not a bug, it is the feature. Twitter's pull to refresh mechanic, where you drag the timeline down to load new tweets, is functionally identical to pulling the lever on a slot machine. Same motion, same variable output, same neurological response, same intermittent reinforcement schedule. Twitter engineers didn't stumble into this. They designed for it. The notification architecture, the chronological versus algorithmic feed debates, the ratio mechanic where the community can publicly disagree with you, all of it manufactures emotional variability. You never know what you're going to feel when you open this app, and you open it anyway. Because uncertainty is more compelling than certainty. Skinner's rats figured that out 70 years ago. The final phase is where the hook closes around you. Investment. Investment refers to anything a user puts into a product that increases the likelihood they'll return. Not because they're enjoying it in the moment, but because they've put something in. Data, content, social connections, preferences, history. The more you invest in a platform, the more valuable it becomes, and the more painful it becomes to leave. Think about what you've built inside Instagram. Years of photos, a following, people who follow you back, a feed that finally, after years of data collection, actually shows you things you care about. Now think about leaving. You'd lose the archive, you'd lose the audience, you'd lose the feed. You'd have to start over on a new platform and rebuild all of that from nothing. This is what economists call switching costs. And every major tech platform engineers them deliberately. Twitter knows everything about who you follow, what topics make you engage, what language makes you click. That personalization took years to build. Leaving means starting from scratch with an algorithm that doesn't know you yet. TikTok's investment mechanism is slightly different. It's less about content you've posted and more about the profile it's built of you. The longer you use TikTok, the more precisely its algorithm understands your psychology. The For You page gets better over time, and better means harder to leave. LinkedIn asks you to fill in your work history, your education, your skills, your connections. The more complete your profile, the more valuable the platform becomes for your career, and the more embedded you are. Spotify builds playlists based on your listening history. Duolingo uses streaks. Netflix tracks what you've watched and uses it to recommend what's next. All of it is investment. All of it is data you've contributed, consciously or not, that now lives inside the product and makes the product feel like it knows you, because it does. And that knowledge was never yours to take with you. Here's what makes the hook model different from ordinary persuasion. It's not a line, it's a loop. Each completed cycle, trigger, action, variable reward, investment, makes the next cycle more likely. Your investment improves the trigger. A better calibrated notification arrives at exactly the right emotional moment. The action gets easier because the interface learns your habits. The reward gets more variable, more tuned to your specific dopamine profile. And every time you go through the loop, the internal trigger gets stronger, until the app doesn't need to reach for you at all. You reach for it. Automatically, unconsciously, before you've decided to. That's the endpoint. That's what engagement means, when the behavior has been internalized so completely that the user drives themselves back to the product without any external prompt. The machine doesn't chase you. It waits, because it built something inside you that does the chasing for it. Nir Eyal wrote, "Hooked as a guide for product designers who wanted to build things people genuinely needed, habit-forming products that added real value to people's lives." And some companies used it that way, but the framework is neutral. It doesn't know the difference between a meditation app and a slot machine. It doesn't know the difference between a tool that helps you and a product that extracts you. It just knows what works. Eyal himself eventually grappled with this. He wrote a follow-up book titled Indistractable, dedicated entirely to helping people fight back against the systems his first book helped build. That tension alone tells you something. And he's not the only one who noticed. Tristan Harris, a former design ethicist at Google, built an entire organization, the Center for Humane Technology, around the argument that these design patterns constitute a systemic problem. That what gets labeled as engagement in a boardroom might more honestly be called a dark pattern, an interface designed to work against the user's own interests. Writers like Johann Hari in Stolen Focus have pushed this argument into the mainstream, that the attention economy isn't just exploiting psychology, it's restructuring it. The hook model became something Eyal himself probably didn't intend. It became infrastructure, not for products, for dependency. Every swipe, every scroll, every pull to refresh. You now know what that is. The question is, does knowing change anything?